Surgical on this side, surgical on this side.
That's perfect.
Charlie.
You want one more?
One more.
One more, Paul. Right in here. Those gentlemen right there. Put you right here in between these gentlemen. There you go. Paul Bear's going to step in close, please. You're going to face out towards me. Towards the hurt. The casket is brought out to you, reach up underneath. And that's by the road, past the rollers. Just reach up underneath, gentlemen. Reach up underneath and take hold of the casket. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to prepare to bear the weight of the casket.
Right around the post, right?
Friends, there's room under the tent if you want to get a little closer and out of the sun, which I know is a little warming. Friends, we gather together this afternoon to celebrate the life and to honor the memory of Tom Rosner. Tom's family so very much appreciates your presence here with them this afternoon, which gives them a great deal of comfort and support. Adonai ma'adam v'teda'ehu ben enosh v'atchashavehu. O Lord, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath, our days are like a passing shadow. We come and we go like grass which shoots up in the morning, and in the evening it fades and it withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, return, you mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. The author of the Bible's first of 150 Psalms describes for us in language that is both poignant and succinct the nature of the good life. Happy are those who have not followed the counsel of the wicked, or taken the path of sinners, or joined the company of the insolent. Rather, the teaching of God is their delight, and they study that teaching day and night. They are like a tree planted beside streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, whose foliage never fades and whose fruit always flourishes. Please join me in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Kohelet, probably King Solomon, is the author of the famous 3rd chapter of the biblical book of Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Tom Rosner died this past Saturday, just a month shy of his 81st birthday. Those who loved him will surely miss him. And I met with Tom's family last night and asked them to tell me about the person Tom was. They responded with a number of clarifying adjectives that gave the contours of his life. He was, they said, interesting, different, funny, passionate, considerate, and kind. Unlike most people, Tom had a wondrous memory. Undoubtedly, because he worked at the post office most of his life, he was in frequent contact with zip codes. And Tom took great pride in being able to identify zip codes. If you told him the city or in Cleveland, even the street address. And his great memory allowed him to link just about anything that came along to a movie he had seen. And he was often very funny, without sometimes intending to be. Moreover, Tom was by all accounts a person who was kind and considerate and friendly, and he sometimes went out of his way to help people out. The nurses and the aides at a hospital and at Menorah Park always remarked about Tom's kindness. In addition, Tom regularly made calls or sent cards on the occasion of the birthdays of his family and friends. And as one person pointed out to me last night, and I quote, Tom Rosner did not have a mean bone in his body. Tom was also a hard worker. Over the span of his working life, he had several jobs, including a stint at the Cleveland Plain Dealer, where he met his wife of more than 25 years, Wendy, of blessed memory. But for more than 40 years, Tom worked at the post office, sorting mail and sometimes working as a night watchman. And to be sure, Tom had his passions. He loved to spend time at the beach, especially at the Mentor Headlands. He loved roller coasters, about which we will hear many more details in just a few minutes. And he loved Cleveland sports of all kinds, and with a passion to which most people's interest rarely goes. For example, when he went to a ball game, he insisted on staying until the very end. When someone he was with prevailed upon him to leave the game before its finish, Tom would get angry, especially when he learned that something decisive, like a game-winning Grand Slam home run in July of 2011, or a blast by Al Rosen, had happened after they had left. Moreover, Tom liked to retain the scores of those games, sometimes making long lists and putting them on his door. And he loved going to movies and to watching them on TV. Indeed, when Tom Rosner had a passion for something, he was all in and evidently forever. Now, Tom did not think of himself as religious. But when, for example, he was at Menorah Park, he told the rabbi that he was always ready to participate in the minyan, always helpful, always considerate. Tom Rosner is survived by his brother Dick and his sister-in-law Bobby, by his sister Roz and his brother-in-law George, and by his sister-in-law Kimberly. He is also survived by his nephews and nieces, Matt and Shauna, Stephen, Julie, and Mark, Zachary and Elise, and Tyler and Liz, and by his great nieces and nephews, Jared, Eli, Jesse, Asher, Jack, and Charlie. He was predeceased by his parents, Robert and Evelyn, by his wife Wendy, and by his brother Bill. Tom Rosner lived a long life, and he touched a great many people with his passion, with his kindness, and with his abiding love for what life had to offer him. Those who loved him will never forget him. Zichrono livracha. The memory of Tom Rosner will always be our blessing. Amen. And I want to call on Tom's nephew, Matt, who will talk about his uncle.
Good afternoon, everyone. We've all heard the expression, it takes a village.
Well, it took a village to take care of Uncle Tom. It all started when poor Aunt Wendy passed away about 25 years ago, and Uncle Tom needed to lean on family for a bit more of support. And we all stepped in our own way. At first, it was primarily Uncle Bill and Dad, more in the background. Then Uncle Bill's health started to decline, and Kim took over. Yes, Kim, the one who was taking care of her husband, had a teenage child still at home, and was working full time. I'm not going to get into everything that Kim has done. Let's just say she's gone above and beyond, above and beyond anyone would have expected, and we all appreciate it. As has been mentioned over the years, we would all take Uncle Tom to either an Indians, Cavs, or Browns game. He loved sitting in the stands, cheering, barking for his favorite local team. He was always a kid at heart and loved the simple things. One of those simple things was going to Cedar Point. I thought I was doing Uncle Bill a favor one day by taking Uncle Tom to Cedar Point with my boys. In the end, it was Uncle Tom who unknowingly did a favor for all of us. Because of him, my boys got to ride 32 roller coasters in 8 hours, in an 8-hour period, without waiting 1 minute in line. Oh, and I have to mention that Uncle Tom was using a walker, and I tracked on my watch that we walked 12 miles that day. The boys and Uncle Tom were so excited that we set a date for the next year on our way home. Unfortunately, the next year came around, and Uncle Tom didn't feel well the morning of and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't go." Needless to say, the boys were devastated. The following year, we went again, and we had a repeat performance, and he gave my boys a memory they will never forget. Over the past couple of years, Uncle Tom would call me during various Cleveland sporting events. For an example, during the Guardians game, he would call me before the game to make sure I was watching it and to help him find which channel it was on. He called me after each home run and win to make sure I saw it. So just to put it in perspective, from the Guardians last year, they played 182 games, 92 wins, 185 home runs were hit. So between April and October, Uncle Tom called me 459 times, which did not include the playoffs. If you add the season, the Cavs season this year, half the season, that's at least an additional 100 calls. These calls were so consistent that while watching the games with my boys at home, they started to get worried when the phone didn't ring at the end of the third quarter of the Cavs game. Uncle Tom either broke his phone or his battery died at least 4 times per year. When this happened, I would get a call every hour on the hour until I responded. At this point, I would contact Tyler, because Tyler was the one who controlled Uncle Tom's phone account. And yes, I called Tyler every hour on the hour until he called me back. Thank God we all have unlimited calling plans. So I just want to conclude that in my young adult life, I would hear Grandma Evie periodically talk about Uncle Tom and how she was worried about him. And Grandma's right over here, smiling because each of us took care of him in our own way, and the best we knew how.
Wonderful tribute, thank you. The voice cries out and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when a wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forever. Hatzor tamim ba'aloki chalder achab mishpat. El emunah ve'ein avel tzadik v'yashar. God is sure, our immovable rock, all God's work is upright. Who can say, what is it that you do? The Eternal governs what is above and what is below, overseeing both the valleys of death and the heights of life. God is sure, our immovable rock. Who can say to God, what will you do? You are righteous in your dealings in both death and life, and every soul is in your trust. We praise you, Judge of truth, who ordains death and summons us to life. Help us to feel your presence at this time, so that we may declare that God is upright, our rock, in whom there is no unrighteousness. has given, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Eternal is your might, O God. All life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living. With great compassion you give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Baruch atah Adonai noteh b'tochenu chayei olam. We praise you, O God, who implants eternal life within us. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The Spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the Spirit which we now lay within the earth. The Spirit itself cannot die. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our beloved departed, Tuvia Eliyahu ben Reuven. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love that is stronger than death. Though we cry in the anguish of our hearts, may we know that our Comforter is near, and may we cling unafraid to the trusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us to your keeping, as we now repeat the words that have been hallowed by our generations. As you wish and as you are able, I invite you now to please rise for the Kaddish. Those who wish may certainly remain seated. And we say together, Yet Gadal v'Yet Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'Yalma Divrach Hirutei v'Yamlik Malchutei v'Chayichon v'Yomeichon v'Chayedecho Beit Yisrael v'Agalav Izman Kari v'Yamru Amen Yehi Shemei Rabbah v'Barach Le'olam Alamei Almaya Yet Barak v'Yishtabach v'Yet Fa'ar v'Yet Romam v'Yet Naseh V'yet Hadar, v'yet Aleh, v'yet Halal, Shmei, v'Kudshah, v'Richu, Le'elam en kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechemata, Da'amiran v'alma v'yamru Amen, Yehei Shalom Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And to Tom's family we now say, may God console you with all who mourn among all the families of the earth. Now go forth in peace to life, and may God go with you. This concludes our service. I'm going to ask the family first to place a shovel full of dirt on the casket, and then those who want to participate in this ritual may do so following that. For those who have come to support the family, thank you so much for your presence here with us.